We are on the record for hearings and the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for February 22nd, 2023. I am Stephen Nelson, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9:01 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Case number 29837 will be continued to March. Case number 29838 will be dismissed. Case number 29839 will be dismissed. Case number 29840 will be dismissed. Case number 29705 will be continued to March. Case number 29841 will be continued to March. Case number 29843 will be continued to March. Case number 29346 will be continued to March. Case number 29230 will be dismissed. Case number 29853 will be dismissed. Case number 29857 will be continued to March. And the administrative docket starts on page 4 with case number 29848 and goes through case number 29867 and includes the docket supplement with case number 29887. Case number 29848 will be remanded. The remainder of these cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the Oil and Gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear in one of the matters on the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We will begin with case number 29837. Application of Petro Hunt LLC for an order for the Keene Bakken Three Forks and or Charleston Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 3840 acre space unit consisting of sections 20, 21, 28, 29, 32, and 33, Township 153 North, Range 95 West, McKenzie County, ND, and authorize the drilling of one horizontal well on or near the section lines between the existing space units of said proposed overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit, granting such other and further relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to March. Case number 29838, application of Petro Hunt LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Little Knife Bakken Pool to establish 8 overlapping 1920 acre space units described as sections 16, 21, and 28, sections 15, 22, and 27, sections 14, 23, and 26, and sections 13, 24, and 25, Township 144 North, Range 98 West, section 33, Township 144 North, Range 98 West, and sections 4 and 9, Township 143 North, Range 98 West, Section 434, Township 144 North, Range 98 West, and Sections 3 and 10, Township 143 North, Range 98 West, Section 35, Township 144 North, Range 98 West, and Sections 2 and 11, Township 143 North, Range 98 West, and Section 36, Township 144 North, Range 98 West, and Sections 1 and 12, Township 143 North, Range 98 West, Billings County, ND, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29839, application of Petro Hunt LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Little Knife Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 18, 19, and 30, Township 144 North, Range 97 West, Dunn County, ND, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29840, application of Petro Hunt LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Little Knife and or Crooked Creek Bakken Pools to establish an overlapping 1920 acre space unit described as section 31, Township 144 North, Range 97 West, and section 6 and 7, Township 143 North, Range 97 West, Dunn County, ND, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29705, application of Petro Hunt LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Kilson Slough Bakken Pool, Burke County, ND, to extend the outline and amend the applicable orders for the Kilson Slough Field to include all of sections 19 and 30, Township 159 North, Range 91 West, and establish a stand-up 1920 acre space unit described as sections 19, 30, and 31, Township 159 North, Range 91 West, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to March. Case number 29841, temporary spacing to develop an oil and or gas pool discovered by the Petro Hunt Dakota LLC, number 3-9 Hagen Well, file number 15013, on the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 9, Township 148 North, Range 102 West, McKenzie County, ND, define the field limits, and enact such special field rules as may be necessary. This case is continued to March. Case number 29842, application of Kraken Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Green Lake and or Bergbakken pools to establish an overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit described as sections 12, 13, and 24, Township 159 North, Range 100 West, and sections 7, 18, and 19, Township 159 North, Range 99 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Kraken Operating LLC. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically, Alan White, Brian Lucero, and Josh Lackner. And I'll call them now. Wade Mann. Issue getting them. What's the number? Like if I have them dial in instead. It's just right here, 328-8099. 328-8099.
Do you want to make sure your mic is off if you're doing the number here, just so it's not on the record?
What's it?
Just so we aren't saying the call-in number on the record. Huh. Sure.
They're probably moving their offices. Every time we go to visit them, they're in a different place.
Yeah,
All right, you got everybody with you there?
I do.
All right, sorry we couldn't get into the meeting invite that you sent. So
Okay.
All right. Mr. White, I'm going to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Alan, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Alan White. I'm employed by Kraken Oil and Gas. Our business address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas 77024. and I am Vice President of Land.
And Alan, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Did you have your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with this proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. White be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Alan, let's go through your land exhibits, beginning with L1, that regional locator map.
Yep, L1 is just a regional locator map of the Green Lake and Bird Bakken field. Exhibit L2 is a regional locator map of the proposed 3,840 acre unit comprising of sections 7, 18, and 19 of 159.99 and 12, 13, and 24 of 159.100. I have depicted the working interest of the proposed overlapping 3,840 acre unit. Below, both of these units are Kraken operated units, and we have a working interest of 71.34% in the proposed 3,840 acre unit.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. White. I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none? I guess-
Alan, this is Lynn Helms. I noticed that your 1920s and your 3840 are not located along the township line. Is there a land reason that it's located where it is?
I guess I don't follow.
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that.
He didn't understand the question, he said.
Oh, okay.
He didn't follow, he said.
So typically, we prefer not to strand sections like what it appears section 1 and 6 are here across a township line. So I'm just wondering if it's a ownership or a land reason that the 3840 is being located here.
No, we actually came and spaced or will space those sections 6, 5, and 4 as a laydown 3-miler, and sections 1, 2, and 3 as a laydown 3-miler. So we are not stranding those sections. And I believe that I think we've done this previously, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Or,
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none? Move on to Mr. Lucero. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Brian, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Brian Lucero. I am employed by Kraken Oil and Gas as their geology manager. Our address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas 77024.
And Brian, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, sir.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Let's start with G1, if you can take us through your structure map.
G1 is a structure map on the top of the Middle Bakken Formation, 50-foot contour interval, and generally demonstrating regional dip to the south.
Just a quick question, Mr. Rand. Did you want to question him as an expert, I guess?
Oh, yeah, I apologize. I would move the testimony of Mr. Lucero be received as that of an expert as well in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Thank you. Let's go ahead with your next exhibit, the type log, Brian.
So the next exhibit, G2, is our type log for the area, the Sogard 1-30, showing the Middle Bakken Formation.
I have no further questions for Mr. Lucero. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none? Mr. Lochner, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Josh, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Joshua Lochner. I'm employed by Kraken Oil and Gas as a senior reservoir engineer. Our address is 9805 Katy Freeway, Suite 300, Houston, Texas, 77024.
Josh, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have.
And were your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes,
And are you familiar with the engineering-related matters associated with the spacing unit?
I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lochner be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Josh, let's start with E1, if you could describe how you would intend to drill and complete the proposed well.
Of course. Exhibit E1 is the lateral wellbore schematic for a planned 15,000-foot lateral well as part of case 29842. The diagram outlines the four-string design consisting of a conductor, surface, and intermediate casing that are run to surface, and a production liner that is cemented in place and hung off with a 7-inch. Our plan is to complete and stimulate this well through a plug-and-perf method through the liner at roughly 167 feet per stage spacing for the perfs.
Okay. And let's move on to E2, if you could just describe for us how you would intend to develop the proposed spacing unit.
Exhibit E2 is the proposed development diagram for this 3840 acre spacing unit. Our proposal is for the 3-mile well to exist between sections 12, 7, 13, 18, 24, and 19. And the rest of the spacing unit will be developed and is already spaced, I believe, as 3-mile development.
Okay. Let's move on then to E3, if you could take us through the reservoir data.
Exhibit E3 shows the reservoir data for the proposed development. It has geological properties, subsurface properties, and reserves. Of the geological properties, it indicates that the true vertical depth of the Middle Bakken Formation is at roughly 10,400 feet and a thickness of between 40 and 50 feet. We estimate a porosity of 5 to 7% and a water saturation between 60 and 75% in the Middle Bakken zone, and an oil in place estimation of 10 MMBO per section. Our reserves analysis indicate an estimated EUR of 750 MBO for this well, which yields a recovery factor of about 2%.
Let's move on then to E4, if you could take us through the economics.
Exhibit E4 is the economic analysis for the 3840 acre spacing unit. The title has a typo where it says 1920 acre. It should say 3840. As I previously stated, the EUR is expected to be 750 MBO. And considering an initial investment of $9.8 million and run at a price of $70 for oil and $3.50 for gas, we estimate this project to yield an NPV of $7.3 million and an IRR of 126 payout coming in just under 2 years.
Okay. Josh, in your opinion, if the spacing unit's approved for this plan of development, is that going to prevent waste and protect correlative rights?
Yes.
I have no further questions for Mr. Lochner. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Joshua, this 3840, well, you're going to develop that in conjunction with development of the underlying 1920s?
It will be developed with two separate, individually spaced 1920, the 12, 13, and 24, and 7 in 1819 have been spaced in previous hearings. And our plan is to develop the majority of these combined DSUs on a single pad at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Josh, this is Bruce Hicks. Looking at the development in the area, I think it was mentioned that 1, 2, and 3 in 159-100 is a laydown 1920, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that also the case in 4, 5, and 6, or how is 5 and 6 going to get developed?
It is the same for 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, and is Kraken anticipated to be the operator of that?
Yeah.
What's the timing on drilling these wells?
The laydown well, the one presented,
The subject well.
the subject well. The timing is third to fourth quarter this year.
And the surface location to drill out this 3840 and the two 1920s, do you have it picked yet?
Yes.
Where's it at?
It's from the south in section 24, I believe, the southeast.
And will that fully develop the entire 3840, including the two stand-up 1920s?
It'll develop the interior portion of the entire 3840 west of the 1324 1280 and east of the 1819 1280. Those will be completed and drilling completed at a later date.
Okay, and how many total wells are going to be on this pad?
This will be a 5-well pad.
Okay, thank you.
This is Mark Bohr. For the record, the laydown 1920s to the north have not been spaced. Or I don't think they've been applied for.
Mark, this is Alan White. I think we had them on the schedule a while back and removed them based on the fact that we were talking with one of the operators in Section 4 who has a current producer. So we are continuing those talks. We've just kind of got sidetracked with some of the other operations in the area, but we do intend on spacing them. We just need to get through the communications with the operator of Section 4 so we can mutually agree on development there.
Any further questions from commission staff?
I do have one other question, Josh. I noticed on your exhibit E3, your gas oil ratio is going to be variable dependent upon your production method. And just want to make sure that you're talking to your gas gatherer in the area so they're not surprised when they see that when you put that ESP in that the gas oil ratio goes way up and they get a lot of gas.
Yes, we share pretty detailed gas models with them, not just with this pad, but with our entire development plan to try to maintain the most sustainable development in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
That will conclude the hearing in case number 29842. Moving on. Case number 29843. Application of Kraken Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Hebron-Bocking Pool, Williams County, ND, to establish two overlapping stand-up 1440-acre spacing units described as all of Section 34 in the west half of Section 35, Township 156 North, Range 104 West, and all of sections 3 and 10, and the west half of sections 2 and 11. Township 155 North, Range 104 West, and all of sections 15, 22, and 27, and the west half of sections 14, 23, and 26. Township 155 North, Range 104 West, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on each such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to March. Moving on, case number 29844, application of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. For an order amending the applicable orders for the Foreman Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 3840 acre space unit described as sections 1, 2, 11, 12, 13, and 14, Township 150 North, Range 103 West, Mackenzie County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. I have 3 witnesses for this case: Chance Crueljack, Randy Lambert, and Andrew McLean. They'll be appearing telephonically, and Mr. Lambert will actually be appearing in the next case as well, but I'll have different land and engineering witnesses. Hello? Chance, you guys all there? All right.
Mr. Crueljack, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Chance, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Chance Proljak. I'm a land operations manager for Whiting Petroleum Corporation, and it's a subsidiary of Cord Energy. My address is 1001 Bannon Street, Houston, Texas, 77002.
And Chance, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
And were your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, they were.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Crueljack be received as that of an expert in this case.
Testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Chance, let's go ahead and go through your land exhibits, beginning with L1, your regional locator map.
Yeah, Exhibit L1 is a regional locator map. The in red dashed outline is Township 150 North, 103 West in Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and Foreman Butte Field is also in and out of that township there.
Okay. And let's go ahead and move on to L2, if you could identify the proposed spacing unit and your working interest.
Yeah, Exhibit L2 is a land plat showing the proposed overlapping spacing unit, 3840 acres of sections 1, 2, 11, 12, 13, and 14 in Township 150 North, Range 103 West, and Whiting's working interest is shown at 100%.
Okay. And then L3, the 21920s making up the 3840?
Exhibit L3 is a land plat showing the underlying 1920 acre spacing units, which have already been approved. Those are sections 1, 12, and 13, and 150 north, 103 west. Whiting's working interest in that unit is 100%. And then the other is section 2, 11, and 14, and 150 north, 103 west. Whiting's working interest in that unit is also 100%.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Kruljack. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we move on to Mr. Lambert. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Randy, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Randy Lambert. I'm the Geoscience Director for Cord Energy. My business address is 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And Randy, have you previously testified before this commission?
No, I have not.
Why don't you go ahead and briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
I have a bachelor's and master's degree from Texas A&M University a good while back. I have about 30 years, or coming up on 30 years of professional experience working in both technical and supervisory roles as a geoscientist, petroleum geoscientist for large integrated companies in some cases and very aggressive independent companies.
Okay. And Randy,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Most of my work's been in the lower 48, few international projects.
Sure. And Randy, do you have familiarity with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units in these cases?
Yes.
Okay. And you've put together some exhibits, geology-related exhibits for the hearings?
Yes.
Okay.
3 exhibits.
Sure. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lambert be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Randy, let's start with G1, if you can just describe that structure map for us.
Yeah, G1 is an up and Bakken structure map. Contour interval is 10 feet. The 3840 is denoted by the blue outline. And the type log, which is a later exhibit, is located on the northeast corner of the proposed unit. Structures, gentle dip to the east. So that's pretty much it.
Sure. Let's go ahead and move on to your ISOPAC map, then G2.
So this is a gross interval ISOPAC map for the Middle Bakken. Average thickness through this area is going to be about 25 feet. Contour interval on this map is 5 feet. Same area denoted as the previous map.
Okay. And then let's go ahead to the type log, G3.
So looking at the Whiting Martell type log located adjacent to the proposed unit, we've got the Middle Bakken section highlighted in yellow. This is just a typical triple track display we use at Cord for correlating, showing the petroleum system from the base of the lodgepole basically to the third bench of the Three Forks.
Sure. I have no further questions for Mr. Lambert. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. McLean, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Andrew, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, Andrew McLean. I'm a development engineer for Whiting Petroleum, subsidiary of Cord, as was mentioned earlier. I'm at 1700 Lincoln Street, Suite 4700, Denver, Colorado, 80203.
And Andrew, have you previously testified before this commission?
Years ago in a different capacity for a different company.
Maybe let's just go ahead and go through your educational background, work experience, just briefly.
Sure. I've got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from University of Houston. Worked as a facilities engineer for 5 years, and I've been a production engineer for about a year and a half. and then the last year and a half or so have been in development engineering.
Okay. And you've got familiarity with the engineering-related matters associated with this proposed spacing unit?
Yes,
You've prepared some exhibits?
yes,
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. McLean be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Andrew, let's start with E1. Let's go ahead and, if you can take us through how the proposed development of the spacing unit would work.
sure. So, yeah, the green and blue areas are highlighting two previously spaced 3-miler units, 1920s. I noticed I made an error here. They should go all the way up to the section line. I accidentally stopped it at the lot line there. So the entirety of sections 1 and 2 should be included. And then the dotted line is just to highlight where we would be putting the section line well in that 3840.
Okay. Then let's move on to E2, if you can kind of follow up on the proposed well on the 3840.
Yeah, so similar information here. The shaded region should go all the way to the section line. This is just showing the intended location that we have for the proposed well, and also identifying the setbacks that we plan to use. 150 north-south setbacks and 250 east and west.
Okay. And then moving on to E3, if you could take us through the reservoir data and economics.
Sure, so it's a middle Bakken well, reservoir pressure about 7,800 PSI, 255 degrees Fahrenheit, net pay 26 feet, porosity 7.1, and a 30% water saturation. We got a API of 40 for the oil here. We haven't characterized gas-specific gravity yet, so I left that blank. An initial GOR of about 630 scuffs per barrel, and oil formation factor of 1.4. We'll go to the OOIP table there. So it's a 3840 as indicated. The original oil in place for the 3840 is actually 38 million. I realize I just put this as a 1920s original oil, so that would need to be corrected. Again, Middle Bakken formation. The well EUR is going to be 616 MBO with the one well. Then the recovery factor of 13.1% is kind of normalized for, it's not directly it's not a direct division of the well EUR for the OOIP. That would be more about 1.6%. Then with the economic assumptions of $65 per BO, $3 per MCF, you can see we're got a net sales of about 42 million and a net income of about 15.4 million, so undiscounted ROI of about 2.4.
Okay. So Andrew, in your opinion, would the proposed spacing in this development prevent waste, prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells, and protect relative rights?
Yes.
I have no further questions for Mr. McLean at this time. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Andrew, is this 3840 going to be developed with the underlying 1920s?
So the current plan, oops, sorry, I'm getting a little echo here. The current plan is to drill the section line well at the same time as the East 1920, 1, 12, and 13. And then shortly following that, so within a year, we plan to come and get into the heart of sections, or the 1920 comprised of sections 2, 11, and 14.
Are you aware that the commission generally includes a provision that you can't complete the lease line well until there's at least one well completed in each underlying spacing unit?
Yes, we're aware of that. I'd like to bring Chance in to help kind of support our justification for this.
Mr. Examiner, is it okay if we recall Chance to
Sure, why
kind of
not?
address
Yeah.
that issue?
Paul Chance.
Yeah, hi. So, is there a question?
No,
a
no,
follow-up
go ahead,
question, or should I
Chance.
just continue on with that?
Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to be drilling sections 1, 12, and 13 I think in August of this year, we're planning to spud. And the reason for that is there's a federal unit in this area that is currently in SOP status, and Section 13 is a part of that federal unit. And the surface location we have for this these Van Buren wells we're drilling in 1, 12, and 13 do not require NEA, and we would like to drill the section line. These sections 2, 11, and 14 are fully within the federal unit, and yeah, so basically section 13 is also in the unit. Sections 1 and 12 are not. And we feel just that drilling the section line at this time, if we don't drill it now, we would have to come back in the year, like Andrew said, or so, and drill it along with the infill wells in sections 2, 11, and 14. So it would just be a delay on that section line well.
So 2, 11, and 14 are a federal exploratory unit? Are they, is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, there's a large federal exploratory unit in this area, covers 18 sections. 13 is in it, and 2, 11, and 14 are in it as well. And it kind of moves to the west and south of here.
And you're saying to drill the wells in 2, 11, and 14, you need an environmental assessment?
For the surface location that we have planned for that, yes.
So where's your surface location in section 1?
This is Andrew. It's in the southeast of the southwest of 36, just off unit.
And where's the surface locations for 2, 11, and 14?
Planned to be in the southwest of section 14.
And when do you plan to drill 2, 11, and 14?
Currently have the spud date planned for June in 2024. We had kicked around also putting the section line well on that pad, but due to the process here in the EA, we've been kind of shrinking pads and running into a lot of wildlife issues, and so we're concerned that if we can't get a Van Buren drilled now from this pad, then we'll just have further complications.
Okay, thank you.
Chance, this is Bruce Hicks. Are 2, 11, and 14, are they all 100% federal minerals?
Yes, those are 100% federal minerals.
Is that the same with?
Sorry, you know, back up.
Go ahead.
13 is largely federal. It's in the federal unit, so basically the federal unit is about 90% federal, 90.29%. So the allocation for 13 will be the same as 2, 11, and 14 as far as royalty payments. It's a divided unit.
So drilling that lease line well, will that bring in all of sections 2, 11, and 14, or will it just bring in what they call a participating area?
Yeah, it will be a participating area, and it's a divided type, so for working interest. But as far as royalties, it will be on the unit basis, which is 90% federal.
further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
All right, then that will conclude the hearing in case number 29844. Moving on. Case number 29845. Application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Todd Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre space unit described as sections 29, 30, 31, and 32, Township 154 North, Range 101 West, Mackenzie and Williams County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Excuse me. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Oasis Petroleum North America, LLC. I have three witnesses appearing telephonically: Nicole Meredith, Randy Lambert, and Iva Tomova.
All right. Ms. Meredith, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Nicole, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, Nicole Meredith, employed with Oasis Petroleum, a subsidiary of Cord Energy. Business address is 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002, and my capacity here at Oasis is a landman.
And Nicole, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Meredith be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Nicole, let's start with L1, the regional locator map.
Okay, as you'll see the dashed red line or box on the map here, it depicts the 2560 spacing unit we're bringing to hearing today, comprised of Township 154, 101, sections 29, 30, 31, and 32.
Okay, and moving on to L2, if you could identify the spacing unit and working interest.
Yes, the requested working interest for the spacing unit is 58.8% within that spacing unit of 154, 101, sections 29, 30, 31, and 32.
Okay, and then moving on to L3, the breakdown.
Right, so this depicts the underlying spacing unit that we are pulling together to comprise the 2560. You'll see Unit A is sections 29 and 30. Oasis currently operates that unit, and Unit B is comprised of sections 31 and 32, and Oasis currently operates that underlying unit as well. Each with Unit A 56.44% interest, and Unit B with just a little over 61% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith that offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Lambert, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Randy, let's start with G1, if you could describe the structure map for us.
Yeah, so basically same exhibits we saw last time. Structure map on the upper Bakken, contour intervals 10 feet. The 2560 is noted by the blue box. Type logs kind of central to that. Gentle dip to the east.
Okay, and then moving on to G2, the ISOPAC map.
Same map area. ISOPAC gross interval thickness averaged about 35 feet through the middle of the proposed unit.
Okay, and then G3, the type log.
Okay, so the Sampson-Davidson one, I've got the middle Bakken highlighted in yellow, the target interval obviously, and then we show the whole petroleum system from the base of the lodge pole down to the third 3/4 bench. Typical triple track display with a color field gamma ray to A correlation in the area.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Lambert that offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Your last witness, was it Ms. Tomova?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Again,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
yes, I do. Actually, my legal name is Eva Tomova Medina as of recent name change. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, can you spell it for us, just so we've got it correct for the record?
First name IVA, then middle name TOMOVA, last name MEDINA.
Thank you. And Eva, can you tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, sir. I'm currently employed by Oasis Petroleum, a subsidiary of Cord Energy, and our address is 1001 Fanning Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002. I'm currently a development engineer here at Oasis/Cord.
Okay. And Eva, have you previously testified before the commission?
No, I have not.
Can you briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
Yes, sir. I graduated from Colorado School of Mines with a petroleum engineering degree in 2008. I have about 15 years of oil and gas related experience, split between production, reservoir, and now development. 5 years with Cord Energy, and the rest has been with a different operator here in Houston.
Okay. And Eva, are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Ms. Tomova Medina be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Eva, let's start with Exhibit E1, if you can take us through your proposed development plan for the spacing unit.
Yes, sir. So the proposed well is highlighted in with the dashed red line, and has the gray sort of box around it. We are proposing this section 1 well to make sure that we drain the two sections accordingly. The 2560 unit, as Nicole mentioned, will be in sections 29, 30, 31, and 32. We have honored the setbacks that are denoted below. We're actually planning to be 25 feet further away from the east line in this case, just to be on the safe side there. I've highlighted in purple the remaining development that's going to be developed at the same time as the well highlighted in red that we're discussing today, to give a depiction of the full development. So both underlying units will be developed at the same time with the section 9 well.
Okay. Let's move on to E2, if you can just walk us through the summary of the reservoir data and economics.
All right. For reservoir properties, pretty similar to the previous case. Reservoir pressure right at 7,800 psi, 240 temperature, 35 feet. Average net pay, 8.8% porosity. There's a few others highlighted on there. Moving to OIP and recovery, about 23 million barrels of oil in place. This well's UR will be around 557 MBO with a 2% recovery factor. Going through the parallel economic We ran these at 65 barrels of oil average price and $3 gas. For the 2 mile lateral, we're looking at undiscounted ROI of about 2.
Okay. Eva, in your opinion, would the proposed spacing with this development, would that prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Sure.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Eva, I don't have a question necessarily, but on your exhibit E1, the very bottom line, your setbacks denoted as 150 north-south. In this scenario, this layout, it'd be 250 north-south, creating that 500-foot corridor, and it's a 150 setback east-west, depending upon your wellbore construction.
Okay. We'll change those in our plan.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
That will conclude the hearing in case number 29845. Moving on, case number 29846. Application of Hess Bakken Investments to LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Wheelock Bakken Pool to establish 2 overlapping 2560 acre space units described as sections 16, 17, 20, and 21, sections 28, 29, 32, and 33, Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on each such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically, Derek Abrahamson, Jacob Smith, and Carson Noble, and they'll be appearing in both cases. Wade Mann. Derek, hey Derek, you guys all there? Okay.
All right. Mr. Abrahamson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Derek, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Derek Abrahamson, Senior Land Negotiator, employed by Hessport, 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Derek, have you previously testified before this commission?
I am not.
Why don't you go ahead and briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
Okay, sure. I graduated from Texas A&M in 2004 with a finance degree. Also graduated from the University of Houston in 2013 with a master's in business administration. Also received a certified professional layman designation the year after that in 2014. I've been working as a layman since 2006, and I've been at Hess since 2017.
Okay. And Derek, are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units in these two hearings today?
I am.
And have you put together some land exhibits?
We have.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Abrahamson be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Derek, let's start with exhibit number 1, if you can identify, I guess, the first proposed 2560 for us.
Sure, this is a location map of Williams County, North Dakota. Township 156 North, Range 98 West, or Range 98 West. On the west side of the blue, you have the Hess-operated Go Back Trust, DSU, consisting of sections 17 and 20. On the east side, you have the underlying 1280 as well, consisting of sections 15 and 21. That's the Go Binger. And in the green outline, you have the requested overlapping 2560 lease line, DSU.
Okay. Then let's move on to exhibit 2, if you could identify the other 2560 we're requesting.
Okay, location map of Williams County, North Dakota, section Township 156 North, 98 West. On the west side, on the blue, you have the 1280 Dustin Bros, consisting of sections 29 and 32. And then you have on the east side in blue the underlying 1280, the Bergstrom, consisting of sections 28 and 33. And in the green, you have the requested overlapping 2560 spacing unit.
Okay. Then let's move on to exhibit number 3, if you can take us through your working interest in that first proposed 2560.
Okay, this is the proposal for the 2560 Go Back Living Trust lease line. Well, in the yellow, we have the Hess-operated Go Back Living Trust DSU, consisting of sections 17 and 20. Hess has an estimated 91% working interest, and Endeavor an estimated 9%. In the blue, we have, consisting of sections 16 and 21, the Hess-operated Go Binger DSU. Hess has an estimated 90% working interest, USG Properties 3%, and others 7%. And the total for the proposed 2560 overlapping spacing unit, called the Go Back Living Trust LE, has Hess with about 90% working interest, Endeavor with around 5%, and others around 5%.
Okay. And then moving on to exhibit number 4, the working interest in the other 2560.
This is the proposed land plat of the 2560 Go Dustin Bros LE. In the yellow, you have the Hess-operated DSU Go Dustin Bros, consisting of sections 29 and 32. In the Go Dustin Bros, Hess owns roughly 87% working interest, Endeavor with 8%, and others with 4%. And on the east side, in the blue, you have the Hess-operated Go Bergstrom DSU, consisting of sections 28 and 33. Hess has roughly 87% working interest, Endeavor 8%, and others with 4.5%. And in the total Go Dustin Bros LE proposed 2560 overlapping spacing unit, the working interest is Hess with roughly 87%, Endeavor with 8%, and others with 4%.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Abrahamson. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, move on to Mr. Smith. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Jacob, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Jacob Smith. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a geologist for the business address of 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
Jacob, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have not.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
Sure. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Petroleum Geology from Texas A&M University and a Master of Science in Petroleum Geoscience from the University of Texas at Arlington. And I've worked as a geologist in various capacities for 6 years and have worked for Hess for a year and a half.
Okay, and Jacob, are you familiar with the geology underlying these proposed spacing units in the hearings today?
I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Smith be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Jacob, let's start with your exhibit number 5, if you can take us through your structure map.
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU outline in green. The top middle Bakken structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation regionally is dipping to the south. The purple line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in the next exhibit, number 6.
Okay, and then let's look at that cross-section, exhibit 6.
Okay. Exhibit 6 is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay. And then moving on to exhibit 7, can you take us through the structure map for the other 2560?
Yes, sir. Exhibit 7 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 in green. The top of the middle Bakken structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval, showing that the formation is dipping to the south again. The purple A to A prime line represents the location of the wells used in Exhibit 8.
Okay, and moving on to that exhibit 8, the cross-section.
The stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Smith that offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, move on to your third witness, and I may have written that, was it Mr. Malvo?
Noble.
Noble.
Yep.
Mr. Noble, can you hear me?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Carson, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, I'm Carson Noble, employed by Hess Corp. As a reservoir engineer. Currently working at the Houston office at 1501 McKinney Street in Houston, Texas, 77010.
Carson, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have not.
Okay, can you briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
I hold a Bachelor of Science in Petroleum Engineering from Texas A&M University in College Station. I've worked as a production and reservoir engineer in various capacities for the last 12 years in California, Pennsylvania, and Texas. I started working at Hess at the end of 22. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Texas as well.
Okay. And Carson, do you have familiarity with the engineering-related matters associated with the proposed spacing units in these hearings?
Yes.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Noble be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Carson, let's start with exhibit number 9. If you could take us through your proposed development plan for this 2560.
Sure. Exhibit 9 shows the proposed 2560 development for sections 1720 and sections 16 and 21. The highlighted dashed line is the proposed well and will be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation.
Okay. Then let's move on to exhibit number 10. If you could describe the development of the other 2560.
Yes, this is for sections 2932 and sections 28 and 33. And that highlighted dashed line is the proposed well and will be drilled also in the Middle Bakken Formation.
Okay. And then let's move on to exhibit 11. If you could take us through the reservoir data and economics for these proposed 2560s.
Exhibit 11 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in the Goliath area. The expected EUR in this area is about 740 million barrels, or sorry, 1,000 barrels, my mistake, with a 3.6 recovery factor. Economics will run at $62 a barrel WTI, flat pricing at 100% working interest. The expected NPV is about 14.5 million with a 100% rate of return.
And Carson, in your opinion, would the proposed spacing and development prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Carson, just for the record on exhibit 9 and 10, Your legend on the bottom shows a dashed red line for Plan Three Forks wells, but those dashed red lines are actually just the outline of each section, correct?
That's correct.
Good, thanks.
Carson, on exhibits 9 and 10, the wells are depicted just east of the section line. Is that where they're gonna be drilled, or are they gonna be drilled on the section line?
They'll be just east of the section line.
I misspoke, I meant west. Is it gonna be just west?
I'm sorry, yeah.
About how far off the line?
The Beck Living Trust well is about 150 feet off, and the Dustin Bros is about 120 feet off the lease line. Section line, sorry.
And it appears these two wells are gonna be drilled from a common pad?
Correct.
Is that gonna be in, at this point, is that gonna be in section 29 or section 20?
The exact pad location, I'm not 100% certain.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
Not on this case, Mr. Examiner.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 29846. Moving on, case number 29847, application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Wheelock Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping standard 2560 acre spacing unit described as section 17, 20, 29, and 32, Township 156 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 10 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC. And I have the same three witnesses testifying in this case.
All right, Mr. Abrahamson, again, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
And Derek, starting with exhibit number 1, if you can identify the proposed spacing unit for us.
Yeah, Exhibit 1 is a location map of Williams County, North Dakota, Township 156 North, Range 98 West. In the blue, in Section 17 and 20, you have the Beck Living Trust, Hess DSU, and below that, in Sections 29 and 32, you have the Dustin Bros, Hess-operated DSU, and the green is the requested overlapping 2560 stand-up DSU.
Okay, and then let's move on to exhibit number 2, if you could take us through your working interest in that proposed spacing unit.
Okay, and the proposed 2560 Go Back Living Trust Dustin Bros spacing unit in Williams County, North Dakota. In the north side in the blue, you have the Hess-operated DSU consisting of Sections 17 and 20 of the Go Back Living Trust. Hess owns roughly 90% working interest, with Endeavor about 9.5% in there. In the yellow, you have the Hess-operated Go Dustin Bros consisting of Sections 29 and 32. Hess owns roughly 87.5% working interest, Endeavor with 8%, others with 4%. In the proposed 2560 overlapping stand-up spacing unit, we have Hess with roughly 89% working interest, Endeavor with 9%, and others with 2%.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Smith, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
Jacob, exhibit 3, if you could just take us through the structure underlying the proposed spacing unit.
Sure. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 in green, which is a top-middle Bakken structure map, and is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing its formation dipping to the south. This purple line, 8A prime, represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and then if you'd take us through that cross-section.
Yep. Cross-section flattened on top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I offer exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, move on. Mr. Noble, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
And Carson, go ahead with exhibit number 5, if you can take us through how you plan to develop this proposed spacing unit.
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 developments for sections 17, 20, and sections 29 and 32. The dashed green line shows the proposed wells will be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation, and the solid green lines are the existing Middle Bakken wells. To avoid any confusion, the dashed lines you see on the map are the section lines. There are no proposed Three Forks wells in this development.
Okay. And then let's move on to exhibit number 6, if you can summarize the reservoir data and economics.
Sure. So this is the reservoir and economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in the Goliath area. Expected EUR is about 742,000 barrels a day, or barrels with a 3.5% recovery factor. The econs were likewise run at $62 a barrel WTI flat at 100% working interest. The expected NPV is $11.9 million with 100% rate of return.
Okay. And exhibit number 7, since we're asking for a stand-up 2560, if you could just highlight some of the benefits of the stand-up 2560 versus the 1280s?
Yes. So Exhibit 7 shows the facility summary associated with the potential development scenarios using a 2560 and a 1280 unit size. The stand-up 2560 unit allows for smaller footprints for the surface owners, along with lower-cost facilities due to commingling volumes for return trips. Additionally, the stand-up unit allows for some incremental recovery and certainly acceleration of production along the north-south lease line.
Okay. And then, Carson, in your opinion, would that prevent waste and protect relative rights and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Carson, on the 2560, as far as if this was drilled as a two 1280s or a 2560, why is there a land savings? It looks like you would drill it from 2 pads either way, correct?
The ability to tie back those volumes into a central facility is a part of the savings.
A central facility being different in only that it would need commingling approval?
That would be my understanding. There'd be less redundant equipment.
And that's reflected in your well cost?
Correct.
And how is there any difference in the amount of reserves you can recover?
No, sir. I guess there would be the ability along the north-south lease line to bring in incremental volumes.
Do you mean east-west lease line? Between the
Sorry.
two 1280s?
Yes, that's correct. The east-west lease line.
Okay, thank you.
Carson, there was an order out there that the commission had issued many years ago, and it talked about approving 2560s on a development plan that you're referring to here. That order was 14,496, and you really didn't go through all of that information. We didn't talk about uniform thickness, really, porosity, permeability, absence of faults, so forth. I want you to go through that order and submit a supplement And one thing that the commission has found in the past is development like this on 2560s may not be warranted in all cases. We also didn't talk about the production of existing wells. Do we have uniform production across this zone? So I would want you to address that on the existing wells and indicate whether or not we do have wells of equal value that have been drilled. And so if you would address that, we would appreciate it. And then also on your well costs, you're evidently including the cost savings of facilities. You're gonna need to break that down to show us what facilities you would not need if the 2560 were granted versus the 1280. On your exhibit number 5, you don't show where the wells will be tied to what facility. Is it just these 2 surface locations that you plan to fully develop the 2560?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, well, after submitting that information, we may want additional information, but we'll ask for an additional supplement if that's the case. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, there was the request for a supplement, Mr. Mann. What kind of time frame are we
Yeah.
looking at?
Carson, I mean, would 2 weeks be sufficient, or do you think we need more time for that supplemental exhibit?
2 weeks won't be an issue.
2 weeks?
That would be March 8th, Wednesday, March 8th. So the record will remain open until Wednesday, March 8th for supplement. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 29847. Moving on. Case number 29346, application of Oventive Production, Inc. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Lost Bridge and/or Bear Creek Bakken pools to establish a stand-up 1920-acre space unit described as sections 10, 15, and 22, Township 148 North, Range 96 West, Dunn County, ND, and authorize 6 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to March. Case number 29230, temporary spacing to develop an oil and/or gas pool discovered by the True Oil LLC, number 31-36 Northern State Well, file number 37495, northwest quarter of northeast quarter of section 36, Township 148 North, Range 102 West, McKenzie County, ND, define the field limits and enact such special field rules as may be necessary. This case is dismissed. Moving on.
Just wait, Steve, I'd like, believe Wade would make an appearance in that dismissal.
In 29230.
Correct.
Okay, so, yeah, we will recall case 29230. That was the temporary spacing to develop an oil and/or gas pool discovered by the True Oil LLC, number 31-36 Northern State Well, file number 37495, northwest quarter of northeast quarter of section 36, Township 148 North, Range 102 West, McKenzie County, ND, define the field limits and enact such special field rules as may be necessary. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of True Oil LLC. We submitted a letter on behalf of True Oil. This well is inactive, and it's my understanding it's True's intent to plug and reclaim this once the weather gets better and get the equipment available. It's not done yet, but that's the intention, and that there's no further intent for development, I believe it's Red River production in this field. So in light of that, True requested that the temp spacing case be dismissed, and to the extent the commission needs any additional information, we'd be happy to supply that.
Are there any additional questions from commission staff?
I don't know if I have any questions at this time, but I do note that it looks like the well did produce some oil. So the order would address that. And if there are any other questions we have when we prepare the order, we'll reach out to True to have those answered.
Certainly, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none, that will conclude the hearing in case number 29230. And I guess it is dismissed then as well as per the request. Is that our
The
understanding?
temporary spacing will likely be dismissed, but there will be probably some instructions on there as to what to do with the oil that was produced.
So a forthcoming order then?
Yep.
So we won't dismiss it here then. All right. So, moving on, case number 29848. Application of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC pursuant to NDAC section 43020388.1 for an order allowing oil and gas produced from the T.I. Jensen 158 file number 36811, sections 5 and 8, Township 158 North, Range 94 West, the file number 36812, file number 39066, sections 6 and 7, Township 158 North, Range 94 West, file number 39064, sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, file number 37200, sections 17 and 20, file number 37201, file number 39067, sections 18 and 19, Township 158 North, Range 94 West, and file number 39065, sections 17, 18, 19, and 20, Township 158 North, Range 94 West, Tioga Field, Montreal County, ND, wells to be commingled in a central production facility located in the southeast quarter of Section 7, Township 158 North, Range 94 West, CTB number 236812, pursuant to NDAC Section 430203 48.1, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC. And Mr. Examiner, I have one witness here live in the hearing room, Mr. George Owashi. I guess before I call Mr. Owashi, if I could provide like a brief sort of opening and some background and context.
Sure, and I guess for the record, I will note that originally that this was remanded because we had several objections. I will just go through the names real quickly of the objections we have. That was a Charlene Jensen Bangin, a Doreen Jensen, Lucille Solberg, Clayton and Ivy Noshog, Lori Acker Gilmore, Robin Deaton, Donna Tatman, Brenda Deaton, Wanda Kokot, Kevin Deaton, Douglas Jensen, Marilyn Archer, Joan Korhonen, and Steve and Patty Jensen. And they all have emails. I guess I don't go through each individual one, but they're all part of the record here. So, yes.
And Mr. Examiner, Hess is aware of those. Ms. Cattermas forwarded those emails to us. We appreciate that. To the extent that the commission would like those as part of the record, I guess wouldn't object to them being part of the record, just to demonstrate that these people have objected, with the caveat that, I mean, there really is no technical information in there. There's nothing in any of those emails that would assist the commission in any way with determining whether or not, the allocation procedure and the testing procedures that Hess implements and follows and gets approved by the commission. Nothing in there demonstrates that would not, result in the reasonably accurate allocation of production. There's no technical data. There's nothing saying, this part of the procedure or process is deficient. So it's really not helpful from a standpoint of determining, whether or not this procedure in this commingling should be approved. So, I mean, we don't object to it being included, but there's really no evidentiary value to it.
Well, the emails will be admitted and included as part of the record, and then I will let you go ahead with your case.
And then just before I call Mr. Owashi, just like to give some background. So this is a diverse commingling case docketed, and would like to point out that in order number 30938 of the commission, diverse commingling has already been approved for 4 of these wells, of the reference wells, into this central production facility. So we've already, through that order, been approved, and now what this case is seeking to do is Hess is going to be drilling and bringing online 4 additional wells, which they will be asking permission to commingle into this approved facility already. And I'd like to point out just a few points from that order number 30938 that approved this particular central production facility for 4 of these wells already. I'd just note that, the commission has already determined in, paragraph 10 of the findings in that order that Hess would construct and operate the production facility in a manner that allows for reasonably accurate allocation of production to each respective party. That's been found. Also in paragraph 11, it's been found with respect to those first 4 wells into this particular facility that the proposed process, measurement, and allocation will result in reasonably accurate determination of production. So we already have those findings with respect to the initial wells in this facility. And then I'd also note in paragraph 9 that there's reasons for doing the commingling into these facilities, which is noted in that paragraph. It reduces expenditure of funds on surface facilities, enhances economics of production, preventing economic waste, and promoting greatest ultimate recovery of oil and gas from the pool. And utilization of these facilities minimizes surface disturbance and promotes both full utilization of the surface and enhances the aesthetic values resulting from fewer production facilities. So there's benefits to the owners, for allowing these types of, the commingling into these facilities. And then I just point out that the order, paragraph 5 of the order provisions sets forth the procedure for allocating production that's to be used by Hess and commingling. They're using that already for these 4, for the 4 wells that are all already commingling, and they will be using the same procedure again for the new 4 wells. They're not going to be deviating. We're not asking for anything different. That same already approved formula that's been determined to result in reasonably accurate allocation production, that same process is going to be used. So with that, I do have Mr. George Owashi here. I've got one exhibit that he's going to walk through, and it's the sundry notice that I believe we've already filed and the attachments to that. But I think it would be helpful if we can just have George kind of walk through that, and then to the extent that there's any questions from the commission staff, George would be happy to address those. So.
Sure. So, Mr. Ohashi, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
George, can you tell us your name for the record?
George Ohashi,
And George, who do you work for?
Hess Corporation.
Okay, and what's your duties with Hess?
I work as a facilities engineer, well site facility service or surface facilities for all well production in the Bakken.
And what's your business address?
It's 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And George, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
And has it been on commingling related facilities matters?
Yes.
Okay. And you're also, I guess, have testified by affidavit with respect to numerous, gas forecasting issues, things like that, correct?
Yes.
But since we've got you here, let's just kind of, to refresh the commission's recollection, just walk us through your kind of background in this area.
Okay. Yeah. So been in the oil and gas industry for roughly 30 years now, and then probably the last 13 specific to the Bakken and well site facilities, 11 with Hess, 2 as a contractor to a different producer. But been working on surface facilities, commingling related issues, and such, again, with Hess for the better part of 11 years from a development standpoint.
And George, are you familiar with these particular facilities?
Yes, I am.
So you're familiar with the existing central production facility that's in place?
Yes, that's
And the
correct.
4 wells that are already commingling into that facility?
Yes, that is correct.
And are you familiar with the procedure that Hess, the allocation procedure that Hess uses?
Yes, it's, and like you mentioned earlier, it is the same procedure that was approved under the order
Yeah,
for the existing.
Do you have a
wells.
copy of that order in front
Yes,
of
I
you?
do.
30938. Are you familiar with that order?
Yes, I am.
And have you looked at like order provision number 5 that sets forth the procedure for allocating production?
Yes, on page 3. That's correct.
So that's already in place for the existing wells into this facility. Is Hess going to be deviating in any way from that procedure for these new wells?
No, the new wells would fall under the same allocation procedures.
Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the exhibit. Are you familiar with that exhibit, the sundry?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And then just to clarify and confirm, I guess, you're going to be doing 72 consecutive hours testing monthly, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And
And
that
is-
is the same requirement that the 4 existing wells have.
Right, and is that consistent with other testing that Hess does on multiple other facilities? in
Yeah,
the
for
area?
diverse facilities, that's correct.
Just, Mr. Matt, just a clarification. Were you intending to question Mr. Ohashi as an expert, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
good point, yes. I would move that the testimony of Mr. Ohashi be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Thank you. And then, so let's go to attachment 1 of that sundry. On that, we've got listed the existing wells that are already producing into that central production facility, correct?
That's correct.
And then you've got the 4 new wells that we're asking permission to be allowed to produce into that facility, correct?
Yes.
And then we've got set forth in that exhibit the allocation procedure. And I think, George, maybe rather than having you kind of read through that, it would probably be more helpful and beneficial if we move to, you can kind of explain the process, but if we could move on to attachment number 4, the process flow schematic. And if you could kind of walk the commission through, how the allocation procedure works, using that exhibit and diagram.
Sure. So on the attachment 4 exhibit itself, the existing 4 wells are kind of shown by the upper section of wells, the 4 H1 units, and then they run into a 4-slot well test manifold. So we have a manifold that will take a well in and out of tests for well testing purposes for the 72-hour test that's done manually. At a given time, there's one well that's diverted over to the test while the other 3 will go into the bulk test skid, or the bulk skid that's shown on the diagram itself. And then from there, the oil, water, and gas are separated out into tankage in the case of oil and water, and then the gas is sold off to our gas plant via pipeline. And in adding the 4 new wells, there would be a second test skid that's utilized to be able to put the 4 new wells in and out of test through a similar 4-slot well test manifold. And then on the main production side for the wells that aren't in test, they would go to that common bulk skid for separation and processing over to the oil and water storage tanks and gas for pipeline sales as well.
And then just going back, so like the attachment 1, that second page, Hess does conduct meter proofing. Can you just touch on that?
Yeah, the meters in the test and bulk separators themselves as allocation meters are required to go through the proving requirements from the state. I believe allocation meters are all tested quarterly, or required to be tested quarterly, and anything for custody transfer purposes on our LACT unit in the case of oil and otherwise are tested on a monthly basis.
Sure. And then just if you look at exhibit number 3, or attachment number 3 to that exhibit, does that identify, are those the 4 new wells that we're looking to add to this production, to this facility from?
Yes, it's a little confusing, obviously, as you can see from it, but the existing wells, being the TI Jensen, TI Bakken H1s are the ones furthest to the right on the page, and then the TI Fossa H1 and the TI Hansen H1 are the ones just to the left of the pad location, and the 4 new wells are kind of highlighted by the yellow boxes as far as those 4 well bores that would be added on that existing pad.
So, George, in your opinion, then, using this allocation procedure that we've got set forth in the sundry, which is consistent with what's already been approved in order 30938 for the other 4 wells, is that going to result in the reasonably accurate allocation of production?
Yeah, similar to the same as the existing wells. Again, it's the same procedure that's going to be followed, the same configuration. So yes, that's correct.
I have no further questions, and I guess I'd offer the exhibit.
The exhibit is admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
This is Alan Christensen with, I just wanted to ensure, you stated in the original, the older order, 30938, in paragraph 5, it sets the procedures for the allocation testing. I would like to ask, number 1, it states the wells cannot be commingled until the wells are stable. Does Hess have a procedure in place to determine when the wells are in stable condition to be able to commingle?
Operationally, I'm not sure about that in particular. I would have to refer to one of the production experts to determine that.
Okay, I think that would be appropriate to have in the record as well.
Okay.
George, as far as stabilization goes, looking at your exhibit, attachment 4, you have a skid test, a bulk skid, and then another skid test. If you only have 3 facilities that you can test through, and you're bringing on 4 additional wells, how do you bring all this production through if the wells haven't stabilized? How could you produce all 4 wells at the same time, the new wells? Because you wouldn't have 4 facilities that you could run through.
Right. The sizing on the bulk skid itself has the capability of separating a higher volume of production overall. And then the test skid itself, just in terms of capacity for separation, is what's dedicated to run the monthly well test requirement, the 72-hour monthly well test.
No, I understand that, but you're bringing in 4 new wells, right?
Correct.
Do you plan to produce all those at the same time?
Yes.
So if your production has not stabilized yet on those 4 wells, you wouldn't have approval to commingle yet. So you would have to run separate meters on each one of those wells until it was stabilized. So I'm asking you how you would do that. How are you going to produce them until they stabilize? And still meter the fluids.
Right. And again, this is not my area of expertise, but I believe the stabilization period you're referring to is when our wells are going through flowback, which they're actually separated from the main production facilities. And that production is measured through, it's a flowback unit, but it's essentially a separate test separator from this.
So it would be a portable unit that you would
Correct.
have on location.
Yes,
until you
and the well is
receive
put
that.
through, yes, and sorry for interrupting, but the well would be put through that unit until it's determined to be stabilized and handed over to production.
Okay, and certainly on your supplement, outline that so it's clear.
Okay.
And And also, like Alan had questioned, you know, show us how you determine that it's actually stabilized before you start commingling. Of course, you went through a few of the things that is in the previous order, 30938, as far as less surface equipment, smaller footprint, better economics. By reducing those costs, is there a benefit to the royalty owner? Is the royalty owner itself benefiting anything by reducing the costs of all this equipment and the surface imprint? I'll ask you another question.
Okay.
By installing, having a smaller footprint, less costs, less equipment, do you extend the abandonment of these wells? Do you extend their economic life, their well life, because of less costs?
There would be a component of simplification of the facilities, if you will, by being able to consolidate that. I guess introducing less risk from a leakage and operation standpoint, that having the equipment consolidated as such.
Okay, in your supplement, I would like for you to go through and list the benefits of how that royalty interest would benefit from these, and also the surface benefit of having a smaller footprint.
Okay.
Are all four of these wells that you're wanting to commingle, are they going to be fracture stimulated about the same time, so they would be coming on production at the same time, or are they staggered?
Relatively speaking, the same time. I mean, there would be gaps between the wells, but not a significant amount of time. It would be to the extent of maybe within a 2-week time frame, I would say.
There was a T.I. Hansen well, I'm looking at attachment 1, it's file number 36812, which is existing. The spacing unit for that well is section 6 and 7. And it appears that 2 of your new wells, the T.I. Hansen wells, are they also in that same spacing unit? 6 and 7?
The H2 well is of the new wells, that's correct, overlaps 6 and 7, and I'd have to look at the exhibit to recall, sections 5 and 8
Okay.
as well.
And then the T.I. Fossa, that's the spacing unit for that well, file 37201, is 18 and 19. And is that the case on the 2 additional wells, that those are spacing units that are going to be also in 18 and 19, those 2 wells?
Correct, yeah, same situation as the 2
Okay, so
Hansen
one's a
wells.
lease line well and one's a regular development well. So some of the same owners would be involved in some of the same commingling then. Okay, well, if you'll submit that supplement, we may require additional information, but we'll go through that information and decipher what we need. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none? There was a request for supplement, Mr. Mann. What kind of time frame?
Could we have 3 weeks for that, Mr. Examiner?
Sure, so 3 weeks, that puts us out to, what, the March 15th? So we will keep the record open until Wednesday, March 15th. And anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 29848. And that concludes today's hearings.